Good morning and welcome to Light Reflections from First Friends. We are glad you have chosen to join us for this virtual worship service and hope you find it beneficial to your spiritual journey. We consider this an abbreviated version of our in-person meeting for worship for those wishing to join us from a distance. If this is your first time joining us, First Friends is a thriving, progressive Quaker meeting in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana. We consider ourselves a loving, inclusive, joyous gathering of people seeking to know truth under the leadership of God's Spirit. All are welcome, no matter race, age, cultural background, sexual orientation and identity, marital status, physical and mental ability, family structure, or economic circumstance. Our hope is that through this worship experience, you will discover our faith community is unlike any other, where silent meditation is as important as the spoken word, where we emphasize the importance of one's personal encounter with the divine, and where we seek to support one another as we discover truth together. Now we invite you to center down and enter this virtual worship space with us.
Good morning, friends. My name is Kelly Kellum, and I have the joy of serving as the General Secretary of Friends United Meeting. And I'm delighted to be with your meeting today, whether you're here in person or whether we're meeting by Zoom. For the next few moments, I want to invite you to consider a time in your life when you received encouragement. What was going on in your life at that time? What were you experiencing? Who offered the encouragement? What did they do or what did they say? And what impact did that make on your life? We live in a time marked by strain, fear, anger, uncertainty. We see this across our communities, across our nation, but I also see it within the Friends United meeting community as well. In Turkana in northern Kenya, it's a remarkable area that is disproportionately impacted because of climate change. The director of Turkana Friends Mission's 5-year-old son doesn't even know what rain is. As a result, cattle, which is the iconic symbol of wealth in that society, is now mostly gone, being replaced by a sense of despair and hopelessness as people are wondering what does their future hold for them. In Ramallah, Palestine, the West Bank, which is where people live ongoingly because of military occupation and certainly this recent war, has created a great deal of fear and uncertainty. In Cuba, the Friends community in Cuba is impacted also because of the sanctions that has crippled that society, where they have to struggle daily to find the basic necessities to feed their family, to get medical care, and to get the things that we often take for granted. And even here in the United States, we live in this unique time of tension and pressure where so many people live with uncertainty and fear. No doubt this is caused by the stress within our political systems, the polarization that kind of rends at our society, at our communities, and even within faith communities as well. Different places, different realities, different circumstances, but a shared experience. And it is into this we read these words from the Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 10. Let us hold fast to our confession of hope without wavering, for God has promised to be faithful. So let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as some are in the habit of doing, but to encourage one another all the more. I think it's important for us to understand that these words were written to a community that was also under strain, where there was political and financial pressures that was impacting the community and even the faith community at the time. And it is into this we read these powerful, important words about how we may encourage one another and support one another during these uncertain times. There are three movements in this passage that I find helpful. One, hold fast. Two, consider one another. Three, encourage one another. Hold fast to hope. We read these words. Let us hold fast to our confession of hope without wavering. The writer of the Hebrews understood that when we are under pressure, it is so tempting to give up, to let go, especially to let go of our hope. One of the blessings I have as the General Secretary of Friends United Meeting is that I get to journey with some amazing people who teach me things all the time. From my Palestinian friends, I learn what it means to hold on to hope. My dear friend, Jean Zaru, a Quaker Palestinian who is known for her work for peace activism, and she said these words that I won't forget. She says, "We Palestinians must never reconcile ourselves to hopelessness. We must never reconcile ourselves to hopelessness." I think this is an important prophetic word for us as well. We who live under the strain of uncertain times, an ongoing frustration and disappointment, when we may feel lonely in what we think or how we feel, when we may be wanting to give up, to give in to the hopelessness around us. We must never reconcile ourselves to hopelessness. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to have a dinner with a Palestinian family. They have three boys, all teenagers, all at that vulnerable age that Palestinians fear for the lives of their kids. I asked one of the boys, I think he was probably about 15 years old. I said, yeah, talking about the Palestinian situation and the military occupation and all the above. And I asked, so are you hopeful about your future? And this brilliant kid said, "Oh yes, I'm hopeful. I'm not optimistic, but I'm hopeful." And I've been thinking ever since that conversation, what's the difference between optimism and hopefulness? I happen to wonder if optimism has more to do with our circumstances and hopefulness has to do with our interior, our internal reality, where we hold on. Counter to the evidence around us, we hold on. We don't give up. We continue to strive for what is good and what is hopeful in this world. So hold on to hope. The second movement in this passage that I find helpful is to consider one another. In times of stress and strain, when we're tempted to lose sight of hope, it is a temptation, I think, for us to withdraw from community, withdraw from our connectedness to one another, probably for our own self-preservation. And that's probably natural. It's interesting that the Hebrews encourages that community under pressure not to withdraw from meeting together with one another. That seems really important. But here he writes this, let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds. This is an invitation, I think, to empathy, an invitation to be mindful, to live attentively, to pray with our eyes wide open in every encounter, in every situation that we find ourselves in. We might even want to consider this exercise this week. As we go through this week, as we meet people in stores or wherever our journey takes us, upon each encounter, ask a simple question. What is the other person carrying right now? What might be going on in their lives that is unseen? And how might I respond in this moment with care and compassion? To consider one another does not always demand significant acts of heroic sacrifice. Think again about the time when you were encouraged, when someone came into your life at a really critical moment and offered you a bit of encouragement. Often it's that simple act of kindness, that simple word, that gesture of love that made a powerful impact in your life, that gave you the courage to just keep going. The third movement that I see in this passage is to encourage one another. Encourage one another all the more. The word encourage, I think, carries a deeper meaning than just a simple word or a simple gesture, but it means to literally impart courage to another. And I find it fascinating that we have that agency, that we have the capacity to give courage to another, to stand with another, to strengthen a person's heart, to remind another that we're not alone. It is often in difficulty that when we receive that moment of courage, we're able to stand and do what we know to be good and right in the world. I earnestly believe that what the world needs most now, yes, love, sweet love, but what the world needs now are courageous people, people who are willing to stand, people who are willing to act, to be like those courageous Quakers that we often are so proud of in our history, who during critical moments in time, they stood up as publishers of truth, as advocates for peace and justice, to offer a prophetic witness in the midst of a life that was going crazy around them. Perhaps that's what we're being called to today. So I want to encourage us not to give up, to hold on to hope, to consider one another, to consider those we encounter along the way, and then to encourage one another. I think it can make a significant difference in so many lives. Friends, I do hope and pray that you have a blessed week.
I needed a neighbor, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? I was hungry and thirsty, were you there? Were you there? I was hungry and thirsty, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? I was cold, I was naked, were you there? Were you there? I was cold, I was naked, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? When I needed a shelter, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a shelter, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there?
We close this time of worship with a Quaker prayer. God, open our eyes and unstop our ears, that we may see your light and may hear your heartbeat, reflecting and resounding within our chests, in those of all our neighbors, near and far, in all creatures and plants, and in the ground we walk upon. When we finally are able to yield to the leading of your rhythm and flow, may we come to walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of you in all. Amen. Have a great week, friends.